Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited that we have such a wonderful turnout for our webinar. And we're going to be speaking to health and wellness and how we're able to keep ourselves in a really good place as we're seeking out to go into work or go into furthering your education and continuing on with school right now. It's a really important topic, especially at this time in our lives and the climate that we're living in with everything going on. And I'm happy to have you all here. You'll also know that we have a number of other webinars that are going to be happening throughout this next year. And I'm hoping that you folks will be watching for those links and be joining us for those as well. And nearing the end of the webinar, we'll be offering more information about that so that you're able to have the link in order to be able to go in and register for those. So as Jeff had shared, I'm the project coordinator for our newest project, which is an ISA with vocational rehabilitation. I'm hoping that you folks have heard of Voc Rehab. I know that they're very helpful to a lot of folks out there, and some of you may be connected with them now. And I am happy at this point to be able to also present Dr. Tammie Bassford, who is here with us in order to be able to present our webinar today. We also have Gabe Martinez, who is an employee here with us at the USAD, and he will also be assisting. And so you'll see Gabe's picture there. Maybe Gabe, you can give a little wave. And so he's going to be assisting today as well. So at this point, Dr. Bassford, I'm going to hand it off to you. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. It's really nice to be here. I'm Tammie Bassford, and you'll see a co-presenter listed under me on the slide. His name is Ken Kundert, and he's a colleague of mine. He co-presents with me a lot. We met through Special Olympics. He is an athlete in Special Olympics, and I am a volunteer. If you could go to the next slide, please, Jeff. So this is Ken, and that's me. I am with all sorts of disabilities, intellectual disabilities and physical disabilities. And I have my medicine practice down at the University of Arizona South Campus, which is down on Ajo Way. I also work with the Sonoran USAD and do a lot of teaching, and I also volunteer with Special Olympics. Ken Kundert, who couldn't join us today, so he's on a lot of videotapes talking to me, and Ken couldn't join us today because he works as a health aide taking care of veterans in their homes. And Ken went to a Tucson area school and was in
Tammie?
And then he is now working at his favorite job as a health aide. So Ken will be sharing some of his many years of experience with taking care of his health and being at work at the same time. Next. So today we're going to think about what's important to each of us about our own health, and then think about why it's important to be healthy for work. And we're going to talk a little bit about ways we can take charge of our own health and learn a little bit about being healthy at work when you enter the workplace. And when I say work, that also means, say, if you're going on to more education, or even if you're volunteering, all of those have the same commitments that work does, and you have to think about a lot of the same things. Next. So the first thing I want to do is one of those Mentimeter things. Health means something different to all of us. So what health might mean to me might be a little different to each of you. And I'd be interested to hear each of you just type in one word or a short phrase of, when you hear the word health, what do you think of for yourself? Goal, change, yeah. You, That's good. Yeah, health is a very personal thing. It often involves us changing some of our behaviors, and we can set health goals so that we can become more healthy in areas that are important to us. I see someone typed in the chat, my condition. So yeah, some of us have particular conditions, health conditions that we need to take special care of. Like if someone has diabetes, that becomes a big part of their health. I see calm. Yeah, being calm and I see behavior, being able to control our behavior is a really important part of health as well. Caring for, you got to care for your health. Take care of yourself. I see a good diet coming up in chat. So often we talk a lot about diet and exercise and how those are important to health in general. Cool. Now we have change behavior, diet's getting up there.
In the chat, we also have somebody that wrote working out and then self-growth is important for health.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I'm really glad that you guys are talking about physical health and also emotional health and your own calmness and ability to grow. Because all of that, a balance between all of that is really important. Wellness in body and mind, that's a really good one. It just captures what I just said perfectly, that we really need to balance both those things. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for contributing. I think this gives us a really good idea of what everybody in the group today is thinking about health. Next. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you me and Ken talking about how he learned to take charge of his own health when he first decided to take that over as a person about your age. And we'll talk about the steps of taking charge. So next slide. Here we go. So now that we've talked a little bit.
You all hear that?
Should be a little louder, I think. Health goals. Ken is going to talk a little bit about his experiences in.
Are you able to turn it up a little bit more, Jeff?
All right, hang on. 1 second here.
No problem. It's just very important information. We want to make sure that you're all able to hear it. So thank you for your patience as we're working on making sure this is going to be heard
also,
for all.
Everyone can look at their own computer and make sure that their volume's up on their computer as well. That helped me hear it, actually.
Sorry about this. This was working earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
While Jeff is working on getting that volume a little louder for us, the one thing I noticed is somebody else had written into the chat box after we took down that mention about good hygiene being important too, as far as our health. So
absolutely. You know, that seems kind of basic. When you're a little kid, your parents sort of are in charge of your hygiene, making sure you brush your teeth and have baths and stuff. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, I think sometimes it's hard for a lot of people to take that over themselves and remember, you know, what their schedule is for having a shower or a bath, or remembering to brush their teeth when they get up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this should work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So now that we've talked a little bit about health goals, Ken is going to talk a little bit about his experiences in taking
is there
charge
audio
of
coming
his
out
health.
at all?
Yes, I can hear it fine.
Oh, good.
Ken, do you remember what it was like to start taking more charge of your own health?
Well, in the beginning, it was difficult because my health was not good when I was growing up. And I had to learn how to do a lot of things. I had to learn how to take my medications. by myself without being told to take them or anything. And so I had to learn how to do that. And then I also had to learn how to deal with the doctors. That was difficult because a lot of doctors didn't want to listen to me. They thought they knew more, and they kind of brushed me off, I felt.
So when you were learning to take your own medications, how did you start learning that? How did you do it initially, and what helped you remember to take your own medicines?
Initially, my mom was reminding me to take them every day, and at at every time I needed to take them. And the way I learned how to take them by myself was to take them out of the kitchen cabinet and put them in the bathroom where I always saw them. Because out of sight, out of mind. And when they're in the kitchen cabinet, I didn't see them, and my mom would always have to remind me. So that's how I learned how to take my medicines by myself. So that I'm and then later on I ended up putting them into pill boxes because I ended up having a lot of medications to take. And then that helped me also.
So tell me a little bit more about the doctor's appointments. How did you get yourself ready for a doctor's appointment when you first started out?
Well, I had heard that if you're having a problem and you wanted your doctors to talk to you about them, you should write a note. And I would always take a note and with me and give it to the doctor and say, okay, doctor, this is what's wrong. I need to talk to you about it and 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 get something done about it. And that's how I did it.
Did you ever have to practice how
I
you
I did. I would practice with my mom before I went to the doctors, talking to the doctors and saying what was wrong with me because I wasn't very good at that time speaking, and the practice helped me verbalize better with the doctor. So
and when did you start taking scheduling your own appointments with the doctor?
well, there was a time when my mom said, Ken, I'm not going to be around forever, and you need to take charge of your life and everything. And she says you can start with your doctor's appointments. And I said, okay. And so at that point in time, I started going to the doctors. She would drive me, but then after each appointment, I would schedule my own doctor's appointments, and she didn't have to do that anymore. And that's how I started scheduling them.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about when you started working, because you really started working at an early age. What did you have to do when you had to call in sick to work? How did that work? How did you learn when to call, when not to call?
Well, when I started working in a place that required you to call off when you were sick, they told me if you were throwing up and if you had a fever, then you should call off. But then there were other problems too, like I had seizures and I would have to call off 2 or 3 days after every seizure I had. And so I did that. And then I also decided, you know, if my stomach is not feeling good, I need to call off. And I did that too. And you know, it was because of the employer mentioning, hey, you can't come in if you're sick. So I took it upon myself to say, oh, okay, I will do that. And it's worked out pretty good.
Where are you working now? Tell us just a little bit about the different places that you've worked, Ken.
Okay, well, initially, well, the first job I had, I worked in a a place that made cinnamon rolls. But then I moved on to a retirement community called Broadway Proper, and I worked there for 28 years. And they decided after 28 years they were going to downsize. And they downsized. Of course, I was one of the first ones to go because I was one of the original employees there. And so I was the first one to go. And then I moved on to this job I have now at Right at Home. And I'm an in-home healthcare aide, and I help take care of retired veterans and help them clean their homes, wash their laundry, do their dishes, and cook their meals.
And they're getting a pretty good cook because you were a cook at the retirement home for most of the time you worked there, right?
Yes, I was a cook for about, at the retirement home, this one that I was at the longest, I was a cook for about 26 years.
You went from dishwasher to cook in a few years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how about when you first started feeling, say, sick to your stomach? How did you learn what medicines that you could take without calling a doctor?
I would call my mom. She had always said, you know, if you're not feeling good and you need help, always call. And so I did. And if I had a stomach ache and needed to know what medicines to take, I would call her. And sometimes if I didn't have it, she would bring it over. And then I wouldn't have to go out after it.
And then how did you learn how to take that over and do it yourself without having to call her?
Well, you know, if that ever happened again and I was out of medicine, you know, I always kept the bottles. And I would take the bottles to the pharmacy and tell them I need this medicine, and they would help me out and show me where everything was. So that's the pretty much the gist of it.
So you kept the bottles that your mom brought, so the next time you'd know what kind of medicine to use for, say, a tummy ache or a runny nose or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty good system.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you had seizures at work. How did you handle that with your coworkers?
Well, it wasn't so easy, you know. I would be asked questions all the time. And one time I had 15 seizures in one day. And then I was taken out to the hospital in an ambulance. And when I came back I came back to work in about 3 weeks, and they started asking questions. And then some of the employees knew because they had family members who had seizures. But those who didn't, I would explain it like it's like your brain waves, your electrodes in your brain is throwing an electrical storm and causing you to have the seizures. And they were like, I didn't think of that, you know. And it was neat to be able to get a point across so you didn't feel so bad afterwards, you know.
Yeah, so you were able to explain your own medical problem really clearly to your employers and your coworkers,
Yes.
so they wouldn't be scared by it.
They were very accepting of that.
That's great. That's great. And now you're driving. You didn't always drive, but now you can drive because your seizures have been so well
As a
controlled.
teenager, I started driving, but I had some seizures, and they made me stop driving. And so I didn't drive until I was 40 years old, when I received a car from my friend's mom who had passed away. And my mom scheduled me some driving lessons because I hadn't driven since I was 19. And after the first lesson, the teacher told my parents that I didn't need any more lessons because I knew what I was doing. I was holding on to the steering wheel properly, looking in all the mirrors as I drove. I always turned the turn signals on, and and my parents were just so surprised.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the health goals you had to set for yourself and then you met over time were to take your own medicines, make your own doctor's appointments, learn how to talk to the doctor,
Yeah.
learn what medicines to take, over-the-counter medicines, you know, that you would get from the pharmacy when you were sick, learn how to call in to
Yeah.
work when you were sick, and then also feel comfortable explaining whatever your health problems you had to people as you needed to, whether that was a doctor, someone at the pharmacy, or even your coworkers.
Everything was overtime. You have to start in the beginning and end up over time, gradually learning things. And it's like you do that going to school. And this medical thing was like having to go to school again.
Thanks for sharing this with us, Ken.
You're welcome.
So it looked like from the discussion that a few of you could relate to what was going on with Ken, because you maybe knew someone with a seizure disorder or something like that. What did you get out of Ken's experience? What did he need to learn to take care of his own health? You can raise a hand or type it. What were some of the things that he learned? Gabe, you want to start us off?
Gabe, can you unmute?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Oh, a comment from Xander. He says he needed to learn certain responsibilities and aspects of self-advocacy.
Right. That's definitely part of it. Ken didn't use the word self-advocacy, but that's exactly what he was describing, learning to be his own advocate, in this case for his health, whether that was at work, at the pharmacy, or with his doctor. He learned to make his own doctor's appointments. Someone noticed that, that's right. So start thinking about which of these things you're comfortable doing now and which you might need to learn. Next slide, please. And what specifically about work did Ken mention that he needed to learn?
Nathaniel says, learn the ways of being an adult and to be responsible for his actions.
Right, right. And at work, that included calling in when he was sick. And in this case, explaining to people something that might happen at work, a seizure, because sometimes his health problems caused him trouble at work. Next slide, please. So clearly one of the things that was important to Ken, because he started off with that, was taking his medicine regularly. If he hadn't taken the medicine he was supposed to take to prevent seizures, how do you think that would have affected his work long term? If he had never taken his medicine the way he was supposed to, and he had seizures a lot and had to call in to work a lot, what do you think might have happened with his job? Anybody have an idea what could have happened?
Lamont has raised a hand.
Yeah.
I will ask you to unmute. Go ahead, Lamont.
He probably would have gotten fired.
Yeah, because you can only, even though work lets you off when you're sick, you're totally right, Lamont. If you miss too much work, you end up losing the job. So for Ken, getting those seizures under control was really important for his long, successful work history. And because he learned to take his medicines regularly and his seizures were under better control, he worked at one place for 25 years. That's how much they liked him. And they kept giving him promotions. He started off washing dishes and ended up as a cook. And the other thing, of course, is it kept him healthier and he could do other things like drive, which he couldn't have done if he hadn't gotten his seizures under good control. So there's a lot of immediate benefits for something like that, but you're totally right. Other people said he could have been fired, and it's like high school credits, right? If you miss too much class, then sometimes you don't get credit for the class, right? So it's kind of the same thing. And yeah, Bethany made a good point that it could have cost him his life as well. Seizures usually don't kill a person, but every once in a while, if a seizure can't be stopped, it can. And of course, if you're having a seizure while you're driving or doing something else that's kind of dangerous, that can cause dangers. And we'll say goodbye to Lily because she has another class right now. Bye, Lily. Thanks for letting us know that you're going to be leaving. Next
Thanks for
slide.
joining us.
So think about what you want to do next, like after high school or whatever. What's the kind of work you think you might be interested in? I know most of you don't know exactly what you're going to do, but stuff you think you might like. And then think about what would be important about your health that you need to take care of to do that work. I'll give you an example for me. For me, with the kind of work I do, it's really important that I get enough sleep at night. Because when I go in and see patients, I see patients all day. Sometimes I have to work late because there are just too many patients to see. And if I'm sleepy by the end of the day because I didn't get enough sleep the night before, I'm not a very good doctor. So think about something that you like to do. And then what do you think would be important about your health? Something you have to do for your health to do that job. Just like I have to get enough sleep every night to be a good doctor. So I see Lamont said he wants to entertain people. So think about what you would want to do, what you have to do for your health, Lamont, so that you'd be a good entertainer. Like, is that eating right, getting good exercise? Everybody just think of it and either raise your hand or put something in the chat. Eating right, mindfulness, healthy mind. And this is in the, you can put it in the Mentimeter. Somebody wants to be a night watchman. That's pretty cool. Someone mentioned balancing their life. Yeah, I think eating right and mindfulness and sort of keeping emotional balance are two really important aspects of health for whatever job we want to do. I would say being physically strong. So maintaining a healthy weight and exercising might be important for some jobs too. Someone mentioned that they want to be a night watchman, and often that involves a lot of walking. And so getting regular exercise would be another important part of that. And someone mentioned regularly practicing their interpersonal skills. Yeah, most jobs either you're taking care of people in the public, as Ken does, or you have to work with your colleagues, even if it's in a factory or something, you still have to get along with your bosses and colleagues. So interpersonal stuff is really important. Balancing, being able to balance work and home and weight. I see that there. Great. Yeah.
We also have somebody who had stated that they want to volunteer at different organizations in order to get a more decent job. And they said even after military service.
Yeah, that's really, obviously in the military, healthy weight, being strong, having a good, strong body and exercising is important, but also like anything, all that interpersonal skills is really important as well. And volunteering can be a wonderful way of getting a job. A lot of people will do volunteer work. And if you treat your volunteer work like a job, then people start thinking of you as being able to do that job. Self-care, I see, eating right, exercising, mental motivation, and positive attitudes. Lamont's given us a nice summary of everything, probably everything we need to do. So let's move on to the next slide. So each of you have picked something that you think is important for your health, whether that's mental balance, having a healthy diet, being strong in body, having balance between work and the rest of your life. What do you think you need to do to reach that goal? For example, going back to my example, I want to be able to get a good night's sleep every night. So that means that I can't have screen time for about an hour before I go to sleep, no streaming, nothing on the computer. Also, I can't drink anything with caffeine in it after dinner. So no coffee, no soda, nothing, because that caffeine will keep me awake. So I have to do those two things every day if I'm going to get a good night's sleep so I can go into work the next day and be a good doctor. Think of two things that you need to do to reach your health goal. Take a minute to think of the things you need to do, say, to have a good diet, the things you might need to learn to do to exercise every day. And then we're going to share them.
So we've got some comments already. Bethany says, not obsessing over anything negative. She asked that if meditation is a good approach.
Yeah, for some people, meditation is a really good way to get themselves calmed down and to stop negative self-talk. And meditation, the people that I know that use it most successfully, they do it every day. So every day, maybe to begin their day, they'll do some meditation so they can sort of do that balance and get rid of some of those negative thoughts and negative obsessions.
And then, another one. Yep,
Yeah,
Mike says.
some people saying they do meditation. I see Dennis said showering, and for sure, it's amazing how important being in good hygiene is for your job, and it really helps all those interpersonal connections that you're making with people. Can you imagine going to a doctor who's going to do a physical exam and having the doctor be all dirty? It wouldn't be very pleasant.
And then Bethany has a comment here asking about caffeine and how it can might cause heart problems if not being mindful about it.
Right. Drinking too much caffeine can give you what are called palpitations, make your heart beat really fast. And definitely with all these little energy drinks now that have like 5 cups of coffee worth of caffeine, we're seeing young people sometimes drink those energy drinks kind of not realizing there's so much caffeine in each one. And I have seen some even young healthy people come in with really rapid heartbeats and palpitations, which is not fun to have.
Xander says,
comments.
Yeah, Xander says practicing eye contact and maintaining good posture.
Yeah. You know, I see a lot of people at my office who have backaches and wrist pain because they don't maintain good posture when they're working at their computer. And if you have a job that it requires you to lift things, then those are things you have to pay a lot of attention to. Go on to the next slide.
Okay.
So now that we know things that we might need to do, like learning how to sit up straight at the computer, learning how to lift things, meditating, what do you think you might need to do you think any of those things are things that you need to learn to do? Like maybe you're not that great yet at showering every day, or you haven't really learned how to remind yourself to keep good posture, or you're not so good at picking out the right foods. There are things, or you may not really understand your own medical problems very well. Think of some things that while we're talking with Ken again, things that you might need help with. And I'll show you, Ken is going to share here what he needed help with in his health and what he had to learn how to do. What was something difficult that you had to do for your health that you needed help?
Can you all hear that?
Well, at first, well, let's go back to the diabetes.
It's a
When
little
I
quieter
was
than last time, but I
diagnosed
think
with
people can hear it okay.
diabetes, my doctor wouldn't listen to me. And,
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh gosh.
I kept telling him, I'm not feeling good. I need help. And he kept saying, "Oh, if you do this, you do that, you'll be fine." I'm like, "I've been doing that and it's not working." And I just had it. I got tired of it. And so I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, I need a new doctor. Please help me find one." And she went looking and she called someone that she knew, and she scheduled an appointment for me. And this doctor was a really good doctor, and he listened to me and did all the stuff that I was telling him that needed to be done and needed to be checked. And then the sad part is I had to leave him because my insurance changed. So I had to find another doctor. And I, I lucked out because I went over to Banner Health South and I found the best doctors over there. My primary care doctor listens to me. He does the tests that I asked for. And I have a diabetes doctor, which I never had before. And she works closely with me with the diabetes. And we have been doing a lot of good stuff. And she is very impressed with my weight loss and everything. So everything is good.
So that first doctor, why do you think he wasn't listening to you tell what you needed to manage your diabetes better?
Because I feel he thought he knew best, and he wasn't going to listen to someone up coming in off the street who thought, and he thought I didn't know anything. And that's pretty much why I I thought he didn't listen to me. Because doctors go to school, but I went to school, my parents worked in hospitals, and I knew a lot of stuff already. And he just kept pushing me off and wouldn't listen. And that just made me a little angry.
Do you think some doctors have a hard time listening to people with intellectual disabilities?
I do. And it's you see it all the time. Doctors always kind of look at you like, "Oh, you don't know anything. You've got a disability, and I'm just gonna do this and not do what you ask." and that is not right. You know, you've got to get the right doctor and make sure that doctor is going to listen to you.
And your new doctor sent you to diabetes class, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and I was glad about that because it taught me how what I should and should not be eating, and what I can eat, and which was a lot, but like I said, a lot of stuff was cut out that I didn't like because I love my potatoes. So right now I eat some potatoes, but not as much as I used to. And everything is balancing out in the end.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Ken.
You're welcome.
Uh, so Ken needed help with his diet and his exercise to lose some weight so that he could be healthier and have diabetes. Has anyone thought of anything they'd like to share with the group that they need to learn before they get totally healthy? I see Bethany said there's always room for improvement, and you can take classes sometimes to get better at things. And she also said that her doctor listens to her problems, which is really good. Anything else? Anyone else have something they know they need to work on?
And feel free to raise your hand if you want to speak out and share it aloud rather than using the chat. We know some folks are sharing computers, and so that might be easier. And that's absolutely fine. We're watching for you.
Dennis Parker has raised his hand, and I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yes, I've likely seen that before. One thing that what was it again?
Something that you might need help learning to do for yourself right now that you know you should be doing, but you're not so good at it right now.
Well, yeah, you have to be good about what you say.
Mm-hmm. Do you still need some practice doing that, Dennis?
Not at all. I've already got that under my wing.
Okay, so that's something you don't need help with, which is good to know. It's good to know what we've already kind of learned and then things that we might still need help to learn. Like Ken needed help initially from his mom, learning what to take when he had a tummy ache or how to remember his meds. And then eventually he needed help from a special doctor so he could learn how to lose weight and get better control of his diabetes. I see that Xander says, remember that it's okay to ask for help. Yeah, we don't all know all this stuff at once. That's a really important point, Xander.
And then we also have a hand up, a physical hand up. Thank you, from, I believe it's Noah. So you should be able to unmute now. There you go.
So yeah, if no one knows me, I'm Noah Rosario, and sometimes I have a hard time. Sometimes I have a hard time believing myself, and I say a lot of things negatively that makes people worry about me.
So you have sort of negative self-talk, Noah?
Yeah.
Like you'll say negative things to yourself and people will worry that you really do feel that bad? Yeah, so it sounds like for a lot of people, working on that emotional balance and feeling good about yourself is one of those important self-care things that we need to work on. Thanks for sharing that, Noah.
We also have a physical hand up. I know your name's not Bethany, but I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go ahead.
So one thing I might struggle with is doubt mostly. And sometimes I think I have the proper facts in, but I know I have a lot to learn. So what should I do about that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first word. What, you struggle with what?
And doubt mostly.
Doubt?
And yeah, I have passions on trying to become an artist, as I mentioned before. But sometimes I feel like people would think I'm not good enough. So,
Right.
like just anywhere, people would try to slander you for your efforts. So I want to know how to try to improve on that.
Well, that's a really good question. First of all, does anyone else have any suggestions that they offer from their own experience? Anyone in the group that have also dealt with doubt about themselves and how they handle it? You have an answer to your own dilemma. How have you helped yourself with this?
I don't exactly do this a lot, but I would suggest meditation somehow. Like, to any of you who use Headspace, I feel like it would be a proper tool to try to center yourself and let yourself become known to the world, I think.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of things, take it in small steps. I'm going to share sort of a way to become a better advocate for yourself in a few minutes. And one of the things that you'll notice is it starts with assessing where you're at, deciding who you can get to help you learn something, say meditation, and then figuring out a plan for how to do that. And I think that basic approach works well for a lot of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks for sharing that.
So, Nathaniel wants to add a quick comment real quick. Nathaniel, you should be able to unmute.
So in general, I kind of deal with like the same a little bit with doubt, but I've kind of grown and developed to where I was able to understand how to like tell what's truly right and wrong, but at the same time make sure I still have the doubt in order to know that someone's truly right or not. Because it's good to have doubt, but at the same time, it's also bad at the same time. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it took you time. You said that you kind of worked that out for yourself over time.
Yeah, I did.
I think that it does take time, and it takes getting feedback from other people. Excuse me. One of the things that keeps coming up in Ken's story is he would get feedback from other people, from his boss or from his mother or people that he trusted, so that he could see if he was doing things kind of right or not. And I think it's important to ask other people you trust, not just people who are going to put you down, but people you trust. Hey, how am I doing with this? How am I doing with my doubt? How am I doing with my interpersonal skills? How am I doing with my posture? Go ahead and let's go to the next slide. I want to save a little time for a bigger conversation at the end. So all of this is really about taking charge of your healthcare or being your own healthcare advocate. Go on. And that means I'm going to list some things. And I see you with your hand raised, but I'm just going to get through these slides if you can hold the questions till the end. I just want to get through a couple slides about all the things that are part of being your own healthcare advocate. And the important thing to remember is you don't have to do them all at once, and you don't have to learn them all at once, but these are sort of the long-term goals. You'll notice from Ken's interview that he did learn a lot of these, but he didn't learn them all at once. First, he concentrated on being able to take his medications, and then he went from there. So you have to understand your own health conditions, or if you have a disability, understand the disability and what it means for you. If there are, if any of you have conditions that can be, mean you might need emergency help, like a seizure or having diabetes, then understand what the warning signs are. Know who you want people to call in case of an emergency and carry that with you. That can be on your phone as a in case of emergency call number, or it can be a card that you keep in your wallet. Go ahead. As you saw, Ken learned how to make his own doctor's appointments. That's all part of becoming an adult and taking care of your health care like an adult. It's really helpful to write down questions you have before you go to the doctor's office. And you should start to be able to meet privately with your doctor and nurses and not always have a parent or other support person there so that you can talk about private things. Go ahead. If you don't understand something your doctor says, it's really important to stop and ask them. So you just have to keep asking your doctor to explain it until you understand what your doctor's saying. That's probably one of the most important things about being a healthcare advocate. And be willing, have a doctor that you feel comfortable talking to about things that might be difficult to talk about, like your relationships or dating or birth control or drugs. It's important to be able to tell your doctor when you're feeling down. Go ahead, next slide. Anybody who does a test on you, say your doctor draws a blood test, you should get the result of that blood test and you should understand the meaning of the result. And some people like to keep a file of all their medical tests or reports, like if they had an x-ray. You should have your insurance card, know what your insurance is, and carry other healthcare information that you think is important. For example, if you know you have a bad allergy to a medicine, it's important to keep that information either in your phone or in your wallet. Go ahead. You got to understand your medicines. What's each medicine's name? When are you supposed to take them? And eventually know how to call your pharmacy and fill your own prescriptions if you're on medicine. Go ahead. And then understanding your insurance and keeping a list of all your doctors and any nurses that you work with. Next question. Okay. Some people keep all that information in a notebook and they get a short summary from their doctor of their health condition. Go ahead. If you're seeing a doctor that only sees children right now, that's a pediatrician, now's the time to start talking to that doctor about when you should start seeing an adult doctor. Because, you know, pediatricians only see their patients either to 18 or 22. And you should meet with your new doctor before you make the switch. Next slide, please. Now, when you do get a job or a volunteer job or go to school at some place that you have to call in and be responsible for, know what the policy or rules are for calling in sick. And if your boss doesn't tell you, ask, what's the rules for calling in sick? When should I call in sick? You also have to learn about how to be safe at work. And again, ask if you don't know, but your work should have safety rules. You should know if you have to wear any special safety equipment at work. Right now, most of us have to wear a mask at work. That's part of our special safety equipment because of COVID. But certain people, like say if they are a welder, they have to wear a welder's mask so that sparks don't get in their eyes. So different work has different safety equipment. Anybody who's working outside needs a hat and sunscreen. And all of us, no matter what our work is here in Arizona, because it's so dry, we all need to either have access to water, like a water fountain, or we need to know that we're allowed to bring a water bottle along to work. And if your work doesn't have that stuff spelled out for you, then ask. You can ask about all these questions. Hey, is it okay if I bring a water bottle to work? So, one last thing about planning for work is you notice that Ken found it easier to let people at work know about his seizure disorder. You don't have to tell people at work about all your health problems. Generally, that's your private business and other people don't need to know. So you don't usually have to talk about that. If you are requesting an accommodation for a problem, then you might need to talk to your boss. For example, if certain noises or really fast noises or certain things in your environment really bother you, you may have to share your diagnosis with your boss in order to get moved to a quieter part of the office or something like that. Go ahead, next slide. And then part of being healthy at work is knowing how to take care of yourself at home. So know when you should call the doctor, get enough sleep, eat regular meals, regular exercise, and drink enough water at home. I know that's a long list, but it doesn't have to happen all at once. What we're going to work on as part of our activity next is what we call a transition plan. And this is a plan where you look at your own abilities over all these areas and decide what you need help learning and then which ones you want to work on first. You could see in Ken's life that he started working on things like his medicines and calling into work early on, and then worked on diet and exercise later in his life. He didn't have to take it all on at work. This website is, I believe that Jeff will also be able to put that into the chat box if anybody wants to click on it. But this is a website that gives you and your family a way to plan for your becoming an adult when it comes to your health. And it starts with a self-assessment of how independent you are already and how independent your parents think you are. And then a family plan so everybody can agree on what needs to be learned and then work on it. So if we'll go to the next slide. And these are just some additional, this is the website and it can take you to specific areas where you can download the whole workbook, which I think you might have already gotten from Wendy in an email.
Yeah, we'll send also a follow-up email with this information.
Great, but for now, we'll go to the next one. I just wanted all of us to practice doing this a little bit, just with, say, one of these basic things. Do all of you have this piece of paper in front of you or on your computer? Does everybody have this?
Tammy, I just wanted to jump in real quick. It is 10 o'clock and folks were knew that they were logging in from 9 to 10. They have the worksheets in the workbook, so that was all forwarded to them.
Okay.
And if you folks do need to log off and you have to go off to another class or whatnot, we understand. We appreciate that you were here and please reach out to me. I'm going to put my address in so that if you guys do have to, if anybody has to leave, you can still reach out and get in touch. Okay, so there you go, Tammy.
Okay, so if you do need to leave, try and use this workbook and just take a chance on like looking at something like I can tell a doctor or nurse about my medical history, which is number 4, and think, can I do this on my own? Do I need help or do I need a lot of help? And that's kind of how the self-assessment works. So if you do that and there's a part for your parents to do, then you and your parents or other supporters can help you develop a plan for learning everything you need to know. And thanks everybody for participating. And I'm going to hang on so that if anybody wants to go through this as an activity, we can do that. For those of you saying goodbye, thanks. It was nice meeting so many of you today.
Thank
Dennis,
you so much, everybody.
Dennis,
we appreciate that you were here. Sorry, Jeff, were you going to say something?
I just saw Dennis's hand up. Go ahead, Dennis.
This is my first time in a webinar, just out of curiosity.
Cool. Well, welcome. This year has been my first time for a lot of webinars, but now I'm getting a lot more used to it. I didn't used to do so many webinars. I usually did things in person. So, Dennis, do you have this sheet available to you?
I don't own one.
This sheet that I have, because I think it got sent out earlier. Well, if people don't have it in front of them, let's just kind of go through it together, and we'll just.
All right.
This is a worksheet for people ages 15 to 17. There's also one for people 18 and older, but I wanted to start with this one because I wanted to start where people might be at right now. And these are just the first 8 things about having basic knowledge about your health. You can tell someone else what your diagnosis or disability is. You can describe it and its effect on your body. You can describe how it affects your daily life. You can tell a doctor or nurse about your medical history. You can tell someone about health problems or allergies, and you keep a personal health notebook or medical journal. So I would just like us all to look at, I could tell a doctor or nurse about my medical history. So you know how when you go to the doctor and the doctor says, so do you have any health problems? A lot of times when I first have a patient who maybe is just leaving their pediatrician, they don't tell me their history. Mom or dad chimes in and tells me their health history. But I'm the adult doctor and I want to treat my patients like an adult. So I encourage them to start learning to be the one that tells their own health story or their own disability story. And so if you were looking at this sheet in front of you, and you will have a link to download the whole thing later, you could say, I can tell a doctor or nurse about my medical history. Some of you might check, I do this on my own. Others of you might say, I do this, but with some help. Maybe I start it, but then when I don't know the answer to a question, I look at mom or dad and they fill in the blanks. And then others of you might say, you know, I never do this. My mom or dad or other support person always answers that question for me at the doctor's office. Since being an adult means being able to answer that question yourself, you need to have a plan for how you're going to learn how to do it. Does everyone remember how Ken learned how to do that?
Well, you know what they say, asking questions is a good way to find out things.
Absolutely. So he practiced and he wrote stuff down before he went to his doctor's office. So Ken came up with a plan. He and his mom developed a plan for how he could be more of the adult when he went to the doctor and tell the doctor about his own health problems. If we go to the next slide, here's a plan. So if you go here under basic knowledge to the second one, it says, this is the parent now saying, my child will be able to tell his healthcare providers about what she or he has learned about their health condition. So that means that under the plan, Ken's mom, if she was doing it this way, she did it all in her head, I think. She was a smart lady. But Ken's mom might have written down, I will encourage Ken to write a note before he goes to the doctor's office. I will encourage him to go to the doctor's office by himself. And I will practice with him before we go to the doctor's office, him telling me what his health problems are, so he's comfortable when he has to tell it to the doctor's office. So that's kind of how you take your own honest self-assessment of what you have trouble with and what you're really good at, and then work on a plan with whoever your helpers, your primary helpers are, to practice the things that you're still not so good at. And this is a lifelong activity. There are lots of people that are 40 and still aren't great health advocates for every part of their life. But if you just keep working on these activities, you'll be a good health advocate for yourself.
And I'm not in the health business.
But you will see a doctor, and you will have to explain your own health to a doctor someday, Dennis. And that's getting you ready for that. Even if you don't have health problems now, most of us, as we get a little older, need to see a doctor occasionally for something. And this is a way of you being your own health advocate when you go to see your own doctor.
I've done that many times. Only on occasion when either I'm injured or sick, probably both.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Dennis. If you could mute now, we'll see if anyone else wants to raise their hand and just have any questions or comments about any of your own experiences with seeing doctors, and if any of this might be helpful to think about for you. Do you all feel like you're pretty good and comfortable at telling your doctors everything? Or do you think you might need to do some practicing about taking medicines, knowing what to take for an upset stomach, or being able to talk to your doctor one-on-one without your parent or other support person in the room. You can raise your hand or you can type. Xander says he thinks he could do it. So some of you
I
may,
don't know. I'm kind of nervous.
you get nervous,
Yeah,
Noah, when you have to talk to your doctor.
yeah.
Yeah. What makes it
But-
hard, do you think?
I don't know. But well, 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 I just get nervous if I don't know what I need to
Do you think if you practiced with
like.
someone
Like,
before you talk to your doctor that it would help you be less nervous?
like who?
Well, like a friend or a parent, so that if you know you're going to the doctor's office, you could practice with them. Like they could be the doctor and you could say, they could say, how are you feeling today, Noah? And then you could say, well, I'm actually not feeling good, doctor. And then you could practice
Mm,
how to talk to the doctor.
yeah, I'm always afraid to get vaccines, like the needle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that takes some practice too. Again, how are
yeah.
you gonna, one of the things you can work on then, if you have I don't know if any of you other folks out there have a needle phobia, is just learning a little meditation practice to do before you get the needle put in.
Yeah.
Hey, Martinez, have you had, what have your experiences been like with doctors? Gabe, do you think there are things you're good at and things that you might need to learn to do better?
For mine, focus what are you saying to the doctors about their health, like their heart or their health history. Sometimes I get my health history like way before and tell them what is going on with their health. And it tells you drink more water, eat healthy, be positive, and they'll sometimes they'll get you like questions for you to answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I answer those questions they ask me, and sometimes I get quiet, and sometimes we can speak out and to the doctors and what health history they have, any surgeries they have. It helps.
Is there usually someone there in the room with you, or are you alone with your doctor?
Sometimes with my mom.
So one of your goals, Gabriel, could be to be able to answer more of those questions on your own and to sort of make sure you remember before you go to the doctor's office, oh, what were all my surgeries, and maybe even keep a list of them so that whenever you see the doctor, even if your mom can't be there, you're able to tell your own health history. And that way you're acting more as your own health advocate and not relying on someone else.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Gabe. It sounds like you're on your way to being your own health advocate because a lot of times you are the person answering all the questions for the doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
So this has been a great discussion, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know that Wendy has to conduct a small discussion group in like a minute. So thank you so much, Tammie. This information is fabulous and much appreciated.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate everybody's contributions, and I really learned a lot from listening to you and all your creative solutions for being good health advocates for yourselves. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
you all
everybody.
very much for being a part, and we'll see some of you in the focus session in just a little bit. So thank you so much for joining us.